This is some information about the winter solstice, which I'm reading off of Wikipedia. It says astronomical events which, during ancient times, allowed for the scheduling of mating, sowing of crops, and metering of winter reserves between harvests, show how various cultural mythologies and traditions have arisen. On the night of winter solstice, as seen from a northern sky, the three stars in Orion's belt align with the brightest star in the eastern sky, Sirius, to show where the sun will rise in the morning, after winter solstice. Until this time, the sun has exhibited since summer solstice a decreasing arc across the southern sky. On winter solstice, the sun ceases to decline in the sky, and the length of daylight reaches its minimum for 3 days, during which the sun does not move on the horizon. After such a time, the sun begins its ascent into the northern sky, and days grow longer. Thus, the interpretation by many cultures of a sun reborn and a return to light. This return to light is again celebrated at the vernal equinox, when the length of day equals that of night. The solstice itself may have remained a special moment of the annual cycle of the year since Neolithic times. This is attested by physical remains in the layout of late Neolithic and Bronze Age archaeological sites like Stonehenge in Britain and New Grange in Ireland. The primary axis of both of these monuments seem to have been carefully aligned on a slight line framing the winter solstice sunrise, New Grange, and the winter solstice sunset, Stonehenge. Significant in respect of Stonehenge is the fact that Great Trilithon was erected outwards from center of the monument. For example, its smooth, flat face was turned towards the midwinter sun. The winter solstice may have been immensely important because communities were not assured to live through the winter and had to be prepared during the previous 9 months. Starvation was common in winter between January to April, also known as the famine months. In temperate climates, the midwinter festival was the last feast celebration before deep winter began. Most cattle were slaughtered so that they would not have to be fed during the winter, so it was nearly the only time of year when a supply of fresh meat was available. The majority of wine and beer made during the year was finally fermented and ready for drinking at this time. The concentration of the observances were not always on the day commencing at midnight or at dawn, but the beginning of the pre-Romanized day, which falls on the previous eve. It says also here that there's some therapeutic aspects to the winter solstice. It says, even in modern cultures, these gatherings are still valued for emotional comfort, having something to look forward to at the darkest time of the year. This is especially the case for populations in the near polar regions of the hemisphere. The depressive psychological effects of winter on individuals and societies are for the most part tied to coldness, tiredness, malaise, and inactivity. Also, insufficient sunlight in the short winter days increases the secretion of melatonin in the body, off-balancing the circadian rhythm with longer sleep. Exercise, light therapy, increased negative ion exposure, which can be attained from plants, and well-ventilated flames, burning wood, or beeswax, can reinvigorate the body from its seasonal lull and relieve winter blues by decreasing melatonin secretions, increasing serotonin, and temporarily creating a more even sleeping pattern. Midwinter festivals and celebrations occurring on the longest night of the year, often calling for evergreens, bright illumination, large ongoing fires, feasting, communion with close ones, and evening physical exertion by dancing and singing are examples of cultural winter therapies, that have evolved as traditions since the beginnings of civilization. Such traditions can stir the wit, stave off malaise, reset the internal clock, and rekindle the human spirit.